just kind of a quicker, easier way of adjusting things if you're doing any sort of editing of additional pay items for payroll, but then being able to add them all from here without having to first select an employee and then create it again, but being able to do that all in one step. The main focus for today is the bulk additional pay. So a couple of things to note here first is we've got our date picker range, which automatically defaults to the current week. I actually like to change this first to without touching anything else to move it into the previous week or whatever week you're probably paying for payroll. First, it's just going to pull up everybody in that range so you can kind of get an idea of all the people that you could give additional pay to. And then we can go into filtering it and kind of defining how the additional pay will show up for the technicians and in your additional pay search bar. So the first thing here is the additional pay type. These are the same pay types that we had previously. Nothing has changed here. Most of the attendance or pay types that we would add here are going to be the attendance performance. This is for anything that is based off of a technician's performance, right? It's not based off of something else that came in. It's based off of hours worked, days they, not having unexcused absences, quality score, things like that. The additional pay date will default to the last day of the date range that you pick. So before I updated this, it said April 15th. And then when I updated it, it said April 8th. And then your target rate. So there's just a few options here. And I think there's still a couple more that we could add to this. But for now, we're looking at target hourly rate, or rather a flat amount, different options for a target hourly rate. This is going to be like you're setting an actual rate for everybody that comes up with that search. So if your minimum pay is $17 an hour, but you pay everybody that works at least 30 hours or 25 hours $19 an hour, then this would be a target hourly rate. And you can define that based off of whether it's going to be paid towards their job hours, their paid job hours, their allowed hours, their paid allowed hours, paid job hours plus paid allowed hours, or their clock hours. There's so many options here because typically if you're paying just a straight flat hourly, you would do clock hours. But if you're paying any type of job ticket hour, there's a lot of different combinations of these that people will use as far as how they're paying people, particularly between the paid job hours and paid allowed hours, because if people pay hourly for like initial cleans or move out jobs or something like that, the allowed hours on that job might not change, but they're being paid for all hours worked on that job, even if the allowed hours haven't changed. So this paid job hours plus paid allowed hours works well for that. The next setting is additional hourly rate. Same kind of idea, but instead of just setting what the target amount is and having everybody at that amount, it's just going to add like $2 per hour or $3 per hour, no matter what their base is. Everybody could have a different base rate. They could be paid at different hourly rates, but you could add a different base rate based off of any of these options. So if it's paid job hours, it's going to be the total time that they were in a job. Paid hourly in a job is what you would add that hourly rate to. So primarily we would see this again be under paid allowed hours, paid job plus paid allowed hours, or clock hours if you're using this one. Not often will you use total job hours or total allowed hours, but there probably are some use cases for those that we'll run over eventually. And then the last section is the additional percent. So you can add an additional percentage amount so of their fee split. So if they're already fee split, you can add, they could be fee split at 38%, and you could add 2% to that to get it up to the 40%. Gross wages, I'm actually not sure what that one is. I'm pretty sure it's just going to take,
I think they're both just going to take a percentage of whatever is in that column.
Yeah. So
So if you wanted to give someone a bonus based on how much they made in revenue or how much, yeah.
Yeah, the revenue makes sense.
If you wanted to give someone 10% of their gross wages back on top of their, check as a bonus,
Oh,
you could do that as well.
this one's actually really cool if you do any kind of revenue bonus for like a salesperson, actually. Um, the target rate revenue, that actually could be a good one too. But anyways, the fee split is an option there as well. I need to see how we're paying most of the people in here, which I think is by fee split. But for some reason, this was doing some funky things for me earlier. Adjustment hours is going to be if you have like a snow day or you're closed for a holiday, and that doesn't impact their ability to earn earn their bonus, particularly for tiered pays, like if they work 30 allowed hours, they move up into an additional tier. This will help you adjust for those so that even if they only worked 4 days that week, but you were closed the fifth day and you still want them to be able to make their next tier amount, then you would use the adjustment hours here. And then the additional pay note is just whatever you want it to show up as, whether it's a tier bonus, whether it's a cell phone allowance, a reimbursement, whatever note you want to have is what you'll put in here. So let me just see if this one will work or if it's gonna, oh, it didn't error me. Yay. Okay. So this one worked without doing any other filters. We've just got our pay amount based off of an additional 3%. So this person didn't have anything, so they got 0, but you can see that it just adds 3% to everybody here. Infinity, that's cool.
Whoa. What's their fee split? What's in their fee split column?
I'm not sure what's happening with that one because he just has 327 commission pay.
I'm looking at it.
That's an interesting one.
For Darius for last week, the second.
Yeah. Let me
I'll
know if you can figure that out, but that's awesome. Yeah. That's hilarious. So it's still good to check these things. But now let's say I wanted to adjust these based off of, looks like they don't have any scorecards from last week. We'll do it based off of how much revenue they earned. That only the people that did over $1,000 in revenue earn this bonus. So I can just put 1,000 here. I don't have to put a cap on it. It's just saying anything over 1,000 and then apply this filter. And it reduced our total amount here so that only the people that had over $1,000 of revenue get that additional percentage amount. I'm going to uncheck Darius because I really don't want to break this.
Yeah. I
don't want to break anything by trying to add
some imaginary number.
Yeah.
I don't see anything in his timesheets, but I will reach out to Mark. I didn't even know that was an available character, to put in that field. So it's kind of
that's great.
Learn something new.
Let me apply this over time. Okay, so now I have that revenue generated bonus in for everybody. I'm going to uncheck Darius, and then I can submit it to create the additional pays for the other 4 people that earn this bonus. So under the additional pay, if I now look on the 8th, our people are getting so many bonuses right now. But the other thing is that these can all still be edited as well. So if you do find that you added the wrong amount or there were some errors still in payroll before, this should be like the last step that you do if you do any sort of bonus system before actually closing payroll. But you can also just delete these. You can edit them in the exact same way that you could anything else. You could change the notes form, you can change the pay type, the total amount. So if you do have any errors in this process, there's lots of ways to fix it. Let me do another option. I know there's a couple of people that do, let me do a different time range. Okay, so we'll do the same thing. This one will do an additional hourly rate on total clock hours. We'll do $2.75 random amount, and we'll just call it bonus. And then this could be that their scorecard score has to be above 90%, and I'm curious how to enter the scorecard. This is the first time I've done that. And their unexcused has to be less than 0. Wonder if it'll do less than or equal to. It did. Okay. Scorecard average did not work, so let's see if it has to be 90. Okay. So the scorecard doesn't need to be in decimal form. It can be in just a full percentage. So these are the 3 people that have 0 unexcused absences and over 90% on their scorecard score, and they can get an additional hourly rate for that, for their total clock hours. Same thing here, able to submit it and create all of those. You can also do base it off of employee tags, which I really love, particularly if you have different groups of tiers and you're doing doing like a target hourly rate. We've got a couple of people that have, or a couple of companies that do tiered pay based off of how many hours they work, but one tier is, $2 more base rate than the other tier. So they've got group 1 and group 2, so they just tagged everybody that was in group 1 as group 1 and everybody that's in group 2 as group 2. So they do have to run this 4 times for their 2 level tiers of everyone, but at least it's still only having 2. You can just come in here and edit this. You don't have to totally create it every time. So that is another option. Also, if they're like a driver or have their own vehicle, if you have any reimbursements for that you can do that as well. Yeah, there's a question coming.
Yeah, so that example you just did.
Yeah.
What that's going to do is add $2.75 for each one of their clock hours. So it's a multiplier basically.
Yep, so this is saying for their clock hours that they work, I chose a stupid number. Let's just do 2.
Well, mine is actually 75 cents, so it's not stupid at all. So
no, I meant so that you can see how the math is working.
I didn't. Oh, well, that's fine. I didn't understand how to do that.
Clock hours.
So
they were 33.25 clock hours, and now their pay amount is double that. So it's
if you
it's clock hours.
Well, hold on. If you pull down the target rate drop down real quick.
And
so Ruth, so anyone in that middle field, so it says additional hourly rate, and then it lists some options. So any in that field, all it's really doing is multiplying whatever column we select. Yeah, okay. Whatever column we select, it's going to multiply that column's value by the amount field. So, take their number of whatever hours and multiply it by 2. In this case, we're taking clock hours, multiplying it by 2, and we're giving them that as a bonus.
Okay.
So that middle one
I can change this to any one of these. So these are these columns here.
Yeah, exactly.
So total job, total allowed, paid job plus paid allowed, and clock hours. So those are all being included here. And so it's just taking whatever's in that column and multiplying it by your additional hourly rate.
I don't know if it would help anyone else, but putting multiplier or something somewhere in that might help. That's me.
Yeah, so that one, I think they're all multiplying based off of what is in here, except for flat amount.
Right, okay.
All of them are multipliers except for flat amount.
Okay, all right. That helps.
Yeah, so it's just the difference of how it gets added to it, I guess. So like the target hourly rate is going to
like taking a difference between everyone's individual pay. Yep. So you might have some people at $17 and some people at 18, but I want to get everyone at 20. and it's going to take individual differences and get people up to whatever that hourly rate is. Whereas
That's a great way of explaining it. Thank you.
yeah, no problem. And then additional hourly rate is like the truest multiplier in the whole, on the whole page. Additional hourly rate's the truest multiplier. You just take whatever's in that column, multiply it against whatever's in the amount field, you get your bonus.
Thank you.
Cool. Yeah, that's a great question. I think that's everything. I mean, these are still exportable. You can still change what columns you want to show.
I think another thing I just real quick, because you kind of, you mentioned it and that even kind of blew my mind, but what we're looking at here is really greater than or less than fields, right? So you don't have to fill them both out. Really what you're saying is, you know, with a 0 here, you're just saying anything less than 0, right? Or that's all that you're really
And
doing
it looks
here.
like it's a less than and or equal to.
Or equal to, right?
Yeah.
So that helps too.
So Aja, you mentioned just briefly about companies that have tier structures.
Yep.
I have 2 additional tier structures. I have the base and then a tier 2 from anywhere from 29 hours to 34 hours of paid job and paid allowed hours. There's an additional increase of their hourly wage. And then from 34 plus, there's even a higher amount.
So you would run it twice.
Okay.
I'm gonna have to pick what we have actual numbers for. So I'll do total job hours, but you would probably do paid allowed hours for yours.
If I can hold up real quick, additional thought, as well as that we have a job ticket hour, and we pay some employees at a different job ticket rate.
Yeah, so that would be either, so then you would do the additional hourly rate probably.
Yeah.
Where does everybody just get moved up $2 no matter what their base is or something like that, or $3?
Yeah, most of them, but then there are 1 or 2 employees that have a higher base rate. And
But is the difference from their base rate to the next tier the same amount?
no.
Okay, so then for those ones, I would probably tag the ones that are different, give them a different employee tag.
Okay.
So that you would just select those or not select them, essentially. The other thing, so for other people I've seen that have that, they still moved the same amount. Like one base was at like $18.50 and the other one was at $20 or whatever, and they all just moved up $2 for the first tier and an additional $1 for the next tier. So then the additional hourly rate would work for that. But if they don't move the same amount to the next tier, if the difference between them isn't the same, then I would use the employee tags and have 2 different groups.
Okay. All right.
Yeah, that would make the most sense, I think.
Yeah, or if it's only 1 or 2, you know, you could run the report, pay everyone who needs to be paid, and just uncheck those 2, you know, employees and create a manual additional pay for them. You know, the real value that you see in using this report is when you have a lot of employees and a very structured tiered system where now you're saving, you know, it's going to scale, right? So if you have a structured tier system that's easily, you know, easily programmed into this, you could be saving yourself quite a bit of time. But as it gets more complex, then yeah, we're still trying to find the best ways to break everything out. But I think tags, using those tags like Aja mentioned, is going to be the best way for you to group large sections of different tiers, right? You know, so maybe your commercial cleaners make one certain type of tier and your residential cleaners make a separate tier. You would use tags to kind of separate those out.
Okay. May I ask another question?
Yeah.
Fire away.
What does it reverse? Does the calculation go in reverse? So if you're looking at payroll, you run it, and I do an additional calculation just to make sure that the cleaning rate applies to the correct number of hours that they worked. And if it doesn't, so if an employee makes, let's just say $18.50 an hour, and then we run a calculation and it shows that actually they made let's say $18.21, and it doesn't have anything to do with their overall clock hours. It's just there was an error in the calculation and creating or calculating their cleaning rate and or cleaning wage based on the number of hours they worked and the rate that it applied. It was incorrect. So, and it could be that there was a difference, there was an error in the number of hours that they worked. I know it's a little convoluted, maybe a little difficult to explain, but what happens is we have to go back into the daily jobs and find out where the error occurred. Once we correct that, then it calculates their hours worked times the appropriate rate to get their base rate, and then it's correct. But would it go back in if you made a change to the either paid hours or paid allowed hours, that it would change the additional pay calculation that you just made?
I think I understand what's happening, kind of. So for the first part of that, this step should come after any sort of verifications of job by job pay or day by day clock hours. This is like the last step before you hit close payroll.
Okay.
So those steps would need to happen before this.
Okay.
If you make one of these and then have to edit it, it works the exact same way as another additional pay. That previously created additional pay needs to be edited or deleted and then created again. It will not update an additional pay that's already been created.
Okay.
But there is something kind of interesting. If you do the target hourly rate option, if that's how your bonus kind of works, then it will correct itself in the bonus step because it's going to bring it up to that target hourly rate anyways. So it's going to adjust the correction during that portion of creating the additional pay. So if they were supposed to be paid $18.50 and they were only paid $18, that additional 50 cents is going to be taken care of if you use the target hourly rate and getting them up to whatever that target hourly rate is for them. But I don't recommend that. I mean, it will correct itself. Their total pay at the end of that step will still be the same, but your records will not be as clean. So I don't.
Okay.
I mean, it's nice that will help with that, but that's not the first step.
Okay.
So any daily time clock corrections need to happen before you're making the bulk additional pay options.
Okay. Thank you.
And yeah, I do. I mean, just as like a I don't know, just as like a best practices sort of thing, I do recommend going through just like a quick day by day and doing a scan on your daily time clocks for things like this, where somebody's being paid $0 a job just in case, and also just making sure nobody has like some ridiculous hourly rate on the side as well. Just by each day, just doing a quick 5 clock down.
Do you have a video or training on that? What's the best practice of closing out the payroll each day, so at the end of the week that it really should be?
I mean, you don't need to do it daily if you don't want to.
Pardon?
I didn't do it daily. I just did it. I did it once at the end of the week.
Yeah.
For everything.
Yeah. Okay.
But you can do it. I think our Thinkific payroll course goes over a lot of that, and there should be articles about it as well, or maybe at least one combined article about payroll. But it's the same thing that we teach during onboarding.
Yeah, there is an article called Payroll Workflow, and there is also a course called Payroll Workflow. I will link them both in the chat here momentarily. Just give me a
would you
second to
do
get them
that?
pulled
That'd
up.
be great, because at the end of the week, it kind of gets into when I'm running payroll and making sure that the employees their cleaning wages were calculated properly. I'm able to back out. I forget which value I back out to give me just the true cleaning rate, and then it shows me where there would be an error. So 10 hours of cleaning at $18.50 should be the 180.50. But if it comes out to cleaning hour wage rate ended up being $18.03, I know there was an error somewhere in the daily daily calculation. So
You could also do, especially for yours, if it's that clean where you're coming up with the per hour amount, this would be another place that you could check that really quick, is just doing I mean, that works really well. But being able to scan here and just make sure that all of these are coming up with an even number, and
Yeah.
anything that isn't even would be one that you just need to resubmit. And I guess a quick correction on that is that you can resubmit them really fast by just putting a 0 in, no matter what their pay type is, because it will just pull what their base amount is. So if you
Okay.
have people with differing base amounts, you just know that it's wrong, but you're not sure what it is. Instead of having to go search into that employee for their pay amount, you can just throw a 0 in there, and it's not going to give them a 0 pay. It's just going to default to whatever their base amount is. So
Okay.
quick little workaround there. Daniel, you had your hand up so politely.
Yes, kind of a two-part question for you. So this looks great for pay for performance. I think it's going to work for us, but I had a question about quality. So on your screen, let's say we do a quality bonus for last month. They have to meet a 97% average score, but we also factor in response rate.
So that will still need a combination for you at least. What you can do is you can still search the whole month, pull up everything as usual there, and then just do your scorecard, has to be over this, and then use your employee stats report to uncheck the ones that don't have the right response rate.
Okay, and then the other thing we do last month's scores, but we look at their unexcused absences for the last 6 months. I'm assuming that 6 months or that unexcused number is coming from whatever date range you selected.
Yep, everything in here is being used by whatever the date range is. So you still need to use the attendance stats for that, where you can, pull up last month for the response rate, go through, and anybody who has lower than you need, just uncheck them. And same thing with the unexcused, where you can default, just uncheck everybody and then check out everybody. I mean, obviously you can at least remove the people during that time period, anybody who has 0 within that month, and then look at the rest of the 6 months. That would be my option. That would be my suggestion for those two.
Yeah. Okay.
That you'll still need to use the attendance stats, but at least you'll be able to still add them all in one, with one button after that, and it's just unchecking a checkbox.
I would think response rate could get added. That seems like a doable thing maybe down the road.
We have an ongoing list of things to be added. So we have a very set stage 2 of this release already in progress. And that is getting the most common, pretty much the ones that are taken care of in this tier options being able to be done automatically. Without having to set it up every single time, but being able to set the parameters once and essentially adding it right before closing payroll in one automated step. So that is stage 2 of the bulk additional pay, and then after that we'll look into adding additional fields again. But for right now, stage 2 is very, very set in place and is in progress right now, with hopes of actually having some of it done within the next month. So probably sooner than that, actually. But I do know that we have a list going. I'm not sure exactly where that is. I will find that. But we do have a list of additional fields that could be added to this. This is all based off of what the most common things that we've been seeing, at least through the onboarding in the last 9 months or so.
Great. Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, there was a question in chat. What's the difference between additional percent and or fee split additional percent and revenue additional percent? So I think fee split just adds, so if we have, if these people make 40% and we want them to make 45%, you would select fee split and then you'd put 5% in the amount field there. Revenue is going to give them a percent of the revenue at whatever percentage we put in the amount field. So those are the two main differences. Are we tacking on more percentage?
Maybe the same amount, though?
I don't know.
I'm going to try this. I think they would be the same amount. Because they're fee split is already based
You
off
can
of
always tell
revenue.
off. Yeah, you can always tell off of the field in the report. So like you can say revenue, it pulls from what you see there under the revenue field and then adds 2% onto that. And then if it's there's a fee split field as well, right?
There's not. It's just commission pay.
Yes, but then
Yeah.
if you do commission pay and then add fee split, it takes 2% of that, correct?
Yeah, they don't always have to have. I mean, I think revenue is including more than just their fees, their commission, right?
Mm-mm. No, because if I took, if I take 2,832 and 37 cents divided by this revenue, that's going to be their fee split rate.
Yeah,
Well, it doesn't seem like the report wants to load it either. Juliana,
Yeah,
that's
it
a great
doesn't like
question. Well, there may not be a difference. There may be. We're gonna figure it out and get some.
Well, there can be.
Okay, yes, I got it. So, we racked our brains around this. So, this commission rate, I remember now, the commission pay includes prorations. So, if they had a different prorated amount,
Gotcha.
that's why. Okay, revenue would be you're adding 3% before a proration is what revenue is. If it's based off of fee split, it's adding 3% after the proration. So if you have people on a job for different amounts of time, whatever their percentage amount will vary depending on how much time they were on that job, and adding 3% there is a different amount than adding 3% before the proration. So adding it to revenue is 3% before the proration, adding it to fee split is 3% after the proration, and I will be writing this down to add a
I was gonna say
help text on there because we melted our brains a lot trying to come up with those two options. So that's what those are.
Very cool. Great question.
Yeah, super good question.
Yeah, we have.
I think that's everything really that I had.
Yeah, we have some time left for questions if y'all have any, and then we'll get on out of here if y'all don't have anything else. But Ruth, I saw you light up for a second.
I put this in that email I sent you this weekend that I'm seeming to find that somehow I have to hit submit more than once to get it to take.
Sure. So,
but it's difficult to test that because what do I, do a screenshot, of it didn't work, and then a screenshot that it did. I don't understand what's wrong or what's
you could
happening.
do a Loom video the next time you run this. Just kind of do a Loom and just make sure that it all looks correct. So there's two buttons. There's really three buttons, but two of them are the same. So if you scroll up a little bit, so this button right here, that little magnifying glass, and show advanced filters, this button are the same, right?
Yeah.
And all they do is apply whatever settings we have here to the table below.
Yeah.
So we will have to click it at least once to get it to populate. And then down below, the submit button just submits whatever settings we have in the current table. So ideally, we only have to submit once.
Because what I was doing is I was hitting that submit. And for instance, if I was adding it to bonus, then even if I was refreshing, it wasn't showing up in the bonus column. And this happened to me 2 weeks ago too. And I was driving me crazy. I go back to the plain additional pay. I don't find it. Then I come back again and just hit submit again. And all of a sudden it's kind of there. That's what I'm experiencing. So I'll just have to play around with it some more.
Yeah, or just let me know next time you're going to do it, and we'll hop on a Zoom. And I don't know if that will be convenient for you, but I certainly don't mind just recording a little Zoom meeting and you sharing your screen if you want to show. But
yeah,
but
just usually I do it on Sundays, Saturdays or
Gotcha.
Sundays, so it's ready by Monday. But
makes sense.
I don't think you want me trying to reach out.
No. Hard pat. No, I'm just kidding. What I have found is there is a Aja, if you, I don't know if we'll get it to reproduce, but if you like click on additional pay, then back to bulk, then back to additional, if you kind of click too fast on this report, you will get a pop-up like right here saying something about a table and something else. Basically, it's just saying, hey, slow down. There it is. So
Oh,
there
I
you
haven't
go.
gotten that one yet.
Gotcha. So there,
You really do have to click back and forth.
you
quite
gotta
a few
click.
times.
You gotta click pretty quick. But that is so far that's the only known bug that we have on this page, and it doesn't seem to be too malicious in nature. So, if you are experiencing anything else,
That one.
I think that's just because of our test data. I think we're having test data blues. We have a few people that haven't clocked out from last week and need to get that sorted out.
Yeah, this is the one that I keep
that's-
getting when I do fee split, and that was the first time I've gotten it since we started today, and now I don't
Okay.
know what I did differently.
Yeah, so
Got
I
an
think
error.
the MaidCentral test account is experiencing a server error every now and then. If you get a server error on your side, make sure to try to document what you did to get that and send it over to Alvin or to myself and the support team. We'll try to get it sorted out. So.
And did you see my other comment just about, since there are so many columns, being able to freeze
To
the
scroll, yeah.
name or something so that when you move over,
Is that a thing yet? Can you pin one yet on this one?
I
Is
think
this-
it's supposed to. So it did have that at one point, but it broke the checkboxes.
Gotcha. Okay.
Best
During
work.
beta, it had that, but it broke the checkboxes, which I know is why we turned that off. So I
Okay.
do think it's still in the option of what we're trying to do, but we need to make sure it doesn't break the checkboxes and makes those still functional.
Best option is to hide columns right now. Like you can just hide any column that doesn't matter to you for your tiered pay, and then you can eventually get
okay,
it to
you know
function
what?
out.
Yeah, I was looking for the hide columns down near the filter, so I didn't, the
Nice,
apply
okay.
filters, and I didn't see it down there, so I,
Yeah, it's at the top.
okay, that's good. That's
Is,
helpful, thank you.
do you have that ability to block a column, freeze a column in payroll summary?
Not yet, but it is on the list of reports that will be getting that feature added when we, start to make that more readily available. So no,
Okay.
no, but yes, no, but it's on the list. That's one of the most commonly requested reports to have a sticky column. So
Yeah, that one it's definitely in progress, taking a little bit. The payroll summary is
Is there a way to just hide some columns like
the one that
Alvin
you
was
can always
talking
hide
about?
columns on that one, and that
Yeah.
one
It'll be the same way as you saw
Yeah.
here. There should just be that column section, and you can hide whichever column you don't want on the payroll summary, if I'm not mistaken there.
Yeah, that,
you can, and I can't remember if that one saves it or not.
okay. All right,
For
it's,
some reason, I feel like it does, but I can't. I don't want to give you the wrong information.
yeah, it's more of a nuisance, but,
It doesn't save them. I would love that.
okay, okay. All right.
Aj, I have one more question. Just, I don't know if you can answer this. Are there any future plans to set it up so that multiple tiers could get handled all at once?
That's part of what the automated process is that you'd be able to set what all the different tiers were and apply them all at once. So that's part of phase 2.
Awesome.
And that's for the ones that we have the most experience with first. And then I think phase 3 would be able to either adding fields or having additional options for that automatic process. This is just giving us an idea of what different ways people will be using it so that we have a better idea of what will be most beneficial.
Yeah,
hopefully,
if you could tie it into the, at the employee level, that would be great, where you could designate their increase in, at their hourly increase at various tiers would be good. And you could set, well, I think all the tier structure would be the same for everybody, but their pay rate would.
It probably won't be at the individual employee level. We've learned our lesson not to do that as much as possible.
Okay,
It will probably be at a tag level, honestly.
okay,
so that you would tag the employee and then you would define what falls in that tag is what we've been talking about. Just because we did the individual employee level for the base rates, and that created a maelstrom of issues. So,
Okay.
including fixing it. So we don't want to do that much at the employee level. So I think we've been talking about doing it at a tag level more than
Okay.
anything.
So that gives me some thought on how you would consider pay raises at annual reviews or whatever time frame you use, and then maybe set them up. And all right, you're an A employee, so you're going to get an A tag, something like that. So that just kind of gives me something to think about. All right, thank you.
Ideally, it's kind of going to work the same way that bulk rate mods work, where we can kind of set a rule, and then anything that falls into that rule will just have this, this automation applied to it. So I think that's kind of the goal.
Yeah, but then the other key thing what Aja was talking about, make sure that you're running this additional pay once all the other your invoicing is correct, and that the pay rates and your hours are all correct by job.
Exactly. Yep.
Okay.
This is always going to be kind of tying a bow on our payroll, is always going to be kind of adding in the mileage pay, the reimbursements, any kind of holiday pay, any additional pay at all really is kind of the last step after everything else has been verified. That's right.
Okay. All right. Very helpful.
Awesome.
Well, thank you very much.
Yeah, sure thing.
Look forward to the next time
Yes,
together.
sir.
All right.
Awesome.
Take care. Thank you, everybody.
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Any other questions?
All right.
Thank you.
Cool. Yeah, thank you guys.
Thanks,
Glad you guys
everybody.
could make it, and we'll get this. I mean, we've got already lots of videos and stuff on this, so this one will just be kind of saved in. I'll probably save it in the Facebook group somewhere. But yep, thanks, guys.
Thanks, everybody.